So I was in the middle of recording a Donovan Mitchell to the Miami Heat video when the NFL schedule dropped, and I was working on that video because I thought the Cavs were about to get eliminated by the Celtics, and now it's a 3-point game, and I can't trust the Celtics to do nothing. But hopefully the Celtics pull it out, and then y'all will still see that video tomorrow. But anyways, the NFL schedule was released tonight, and I want to mix in some more Dolphins content because I am super optimistic about this season, I think. Honestly, I really don't know. See, here's the thing. I was very positive going into last season, right? And then things were looking great. And then they lost to a good team. And then they lost to another good team. And then they lost to the Bills. And then they lost to the Bills again and the Ravens. And then one guy got hurt. And then another guy got hurt. And then another guy got hurt. And then Bradley Chubb is still getting paid a ton of money and can't do nothing. Now, I know he did have a better season last year and did start to string together some games with a sack, but I'm still not a fan of Bradley Chubb, although I do hope as a person he recovers soon from his injury. But the NFL schedule did get released, so I kind of want to go through every game and do sort of a win-loss, I guess, and just kind of talk about it a little bit. Obviously, we're still a ways away from basketball season, so why not mix in some NFL content regardless of if I'm cautiously optimistic with the Dolphins or not. Anyways, the Dolphins did release a very hilarious video about their schedule drop.
Finally, it's done.
Let's do this.
Let's watch it.
It's perfect.
And the reason I love this is because every year these teams put out these elaborate videos, showing their games, and usually they're pretty funny, I will admit. But over the last couple years, they've kind of got just like overdid, right? Because so many people are trying to do it. You end up seeing a lot of the same stuff. This was creative, and I love it by the Miami Dolphins. But anyways, I'll go ahead and throw up the schedule here so we can actually see it. And game one is at home versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm going to say right away that this is a dub because I feel like it, right? And I'm going to keep track on my laptop here because last year I did a win-loss and I completely lost track and people were mad at me in the comments and said, oh, you're not organized. Well, yeah, clearly. Like, I'm just here just to talk about the Dolphins and the schedule release because honestly, I think talking about the schedule is kind of stupid because so many different things could change by the time any of these games start. So why put a lot of effort discussing X's and O's? I don't know. It's stupid to me. Game two is at home versus the Buffalo Bills. It's a night game. Monday Night Football, Buffalo Bills. Usually those are two things that don't stack up for success for the Miami Dolphins. But I'm going to say it's another win for the Miami Dolphins as they move to 2-0. And let me tell you why. Because early in the season, when the stakes are not as high, that's where the Miami Dolphins thrive. And on top of that, I know the Dolphins obviously lost a ton of players, particularly on the defensive end. But the Bills did lose Stephon Diggs, among some other guys, I believe. So I don't think they're going to be as good. And although I am hesitant to state my optimism on the Dolphins, by process of elimination, they probably will win the division. I don't know, but I do know a hypothetical 2-0 start is a great way to begin. Moving on to game number 3, you got the Seattle Seahawks on the road. First road game of the year. That'll be at 4:05. I hate those 4:05s because I want to watch some Miami Dolphins football while I eat my lunch, and I can't do it that day. Anyways, the Seahawks are an improving team. I guess, kind of, right? Geno Smith, how do we feel about him? I don't really know, to be honest. I don't have a ton of thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks, which is why I'm gonna say it's another win for the Miami Dolphins as I got them at 3-0 once again. I believe they started last season 3-0, did they? I don't really remember, and I'm not gonna look it up. But this is the game that I really want to get to. Week 4 at home. Prime time, Monday Night Football. Oh, I don't remember if I said the Bills was Monday Night Football. It's not Monday night. It's Thursday Night Football. Wow, so short week, prime time versus the Bills. I'm not going to change my mind, but if I could, I would go back and say the Dolphins would lose that game. But anyways, we're not talking about that. We're talking about week 4, Monday Night Football, prime time versus the Tennessee Titans at home. I was at the game last year where it was the exact same scenario. And the Dolphins were up 14 with what? 7 minutes to go, and they blew the game. I was at the game with my dad, my uncle, my boy Thomas, who's in the other room watching Inter Miami get their ass kicked. It was 0-0 when I went out there. I'm glad I didn't sit through that game. I'm trying to get into Inter Miami. I'm really trying. But I cannot sit through a game that's 0-0. I can't do it. There's too many 0-0 games in that sport. Even though, not really for Inter Miami, because they have been hooping. Shout out to Messi and Luis Suarez and the rest of those guys that are balling over there. But anyways, do the Dolphins exercise their demons of last season? They have a chance in the same exact scenario. And I'm going to say yes. And the reason being, as I move the Dolphins to 4-0 on the season, the reason being is because I won't be there. I'm not spending any money on a Miami Dolphins Monday night primetime home game versus Tennessee Titans ever again in my life, because that is the worst thing I've ever spent my money on. But this time, since I won't be doing it, I'm sure the Dolphins will win this time, which brings them 4-0 going into week 5 versus the New England Patriots. I've seen some terrible videos of Drake May throwing the football, which is exactly why I have the Miami Dolphins going into 5-0. And I watched that entire 3-hour Tom Brady roast on Netflix. It actually wasn't too bad, I'll be honest with you. And they obviously made a lot of jokes about Bill Belichick and how Brady screwed him over, and they were left with, Mac Jones and now Drake May. And they didn't mention Drake May specifically, but you could tell that they were poking fun at Belichick for being in a very bad spot. And then when they penned over to Belichick's face, you could tell the boy wasn't happy, which means he knows they are in a terrible situation. And the Miami Dolphins will beat their ass, quite frankly. That is on the road. And then week 6, wow, they got an early bye week this week. I am not a fan of the early bye week. As a fan, I like it because it gets it out of the way early. And then for the rest of the season, I get to watch Dolphins football. But obviously, as a team that does have a history with injury concerns, I do like having it later in the season because usually that's more critical a time for guys to rest up. Whatever, they got it early in the season. Moving on to the following week versus the Indianapolis Colts, who will probably be starting Anthony Richardson, right? Did they draft anyone? I don't know. I wasn't really keeping up too much. 6-0 for the Miami Dolphins. The Colts team, I don't think is any good. Moving on to the next week. You got versus the Cardinals at home. I gotta put a loss in here somewhere for the Dolphins, but it won't be this week, as I have the Miami Dolphins started the season 7-0. And let me tell you what the Dolphins are doing. They're priming us for another huge collapse. But you can't have a huge collapse without a huge start, which is why I have the Dolphins at 7-0. And I will tell myself after each win, I'll say, Ant, don't let yourself drink the Kool-Aid again. You know how it's going to end. Don't do it. 7-0 might be enough to convince me, though. Which is why the following week versus the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, the Dolphins will get their ass kicked. They will walk into an absolute buzzsaw. They will not win in Buffalo. They will never win in Buffalo for as long as I will be alive. That's the rules. I'm sorry. I don't make them. And I have the Miami Dolphins moving to 7-1. Start of a little mini collapse because I see the next week they play another Monday Night Football game at Los Angeles versus the Rams, 8:15. Primetime Dolphins. That's an L. We'll move the Dolphins down to 7-2. The following week they play the Oakland. Okay. They play the Las Vegas Raiders at home, 1 p.m. I think that team is going to be very stinky, but it'll be a Christian Wilkins revenge game. We'll move the Dolphins to 7-3 as we're all starting to say, oh no, here we go again. The Dolphins are about to collapse. Why did I drink the Kool-Aid? But week 12, they play a slump buster, as I like to call them, the New England Patriots. They won't lose to the Patriots this year. That team is booty cheeks. I'm talking Kyle Lowry booty cheeks. The Dolphins will win, improve to 8-3. Moving on to a Thanksgiving night game versus the Green Bay Packers. A lot of fans don't like this. I've actually been seeing because obviously they're like, oh, Thanksgiving, be with the family, will be distracted. To me, I kind of like it because if you are fortunate enough to be gathered around, all your family and relatives you might not see that often, it's kind of fun to watch a football game with them, I think. Something different. Maybe out of your comfort zone there. It's kind of fun to get around. That's if the game goes well, I suppose, right? But the Dolphins had a great win yet? I mean, they've had a few, right? The Titans are okay. I did have them beating the Bills earlier. The Packers are good, man. But they won't. I'm trying to give the Dolphins a good win here. They won't beat the Packers. I will move them down to 8-4, which I do think is starting to get more of a realistic record. That being said, they play the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers' old bum ass the week after that at home. Big time dub. That team sucks. Aaron Rodgers will likely be hurt or off in a forest doing ayahuasca. Which is the player for the New York Liberty WNBA? Sabrina Ionescu is the shooter, and ayahuasca is what Aaron Rodgers does. The Dolphins will smack the Jets to move to 9-4. The next week though, they play at Houston. Yeah, that Houston team is good. Man, the improvements they got. They added Joe Mixon, and they the ones that traded for Diggs, right? And they traded for Stephon Diggs. CJ Stroud about to take another jump. That team may win it all. They may go all the way. I ain't even gonna lie to you. The Dolphins will lose that game and move to 9-5, followed by a home game versus San Francisco 49ers. The Dolphins don't beat good teams. That's an L. Followed to the following week, Sunday Night Football versus the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how to feel about that team. I'll give the Dolphins a win, right? Odell Beckham Jr. revenge game, maybe. I don't know. I guess they did play the Rams earlier this season too. But yeah, whatever. They'll be the Browns on the road. I don't think I have them getting many road wins so far. So yeah, got the Dolphins at 10-6, which means that the 11th game, or the week 18, which will be game 11. A lot of times, that's the one that determines if you make the playoffs or not. That 11th win, they play the New York Jets at home, which means that they will likely lose. That's how this is all going to set up. They're going to be 10-6, and they're going to need to win 11 to make the wild card, and they're going to lose to the Jets on the road. Oh, God, and that's going to be in January, too. MetLife Stadium in January. Oh, God, so many guys are going to get hurt on that turf. The Dolphins, that team is so terrible, though. They'll finish 11-6 and probably play Baltimore in the first round and get their ass kicked. But, hey, that's what I got. I got the Dolphins record at 11-6. Does that sound good? 11-6, right? What did the Dolphins finish last year? Wait, isn't there 18 games? No, there's the bye week, right? So 17 games. I forget. The NFL makes so many rules. Dolphins record last year. I forget how many games they won. They won 11, right? All right. They'll win 11 games again, probably play in the playoffs, and Tua will probably suck it up because he can't win big games, but it'll be too late because I'm assuming they would have already given him his money by then. What are you going to do about it? I understand that video was random and not a lot of contextual information, but hey, I haven't watched football in a long time since the Super Bowl, I guess. So we'll get back into it. I'll be sure to have plenty of more Dolphins content coming throughout the offseason if there's any relevant moves, and certainly after the games I plan on getting some post games out when we actually have some serious stuff to talk about. But yeah, whatever. Stay tuned, make sure y'all subscribe and like the video, and I'll have a Donovan Mitchell video coming out soon, probably. I'll see y'all. Peace out.
Look, pull up in your city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.